Exciting day in the Mile High City because the Denver Nuggets will take on the best team by record in the NBA later tonight on Thursday night. We're going to talk about that today on the Mile High Hoops podcast. I'm Jake Shapiro. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Denver Sports, for all the latest and greatest about what's going on in the world of sports here in Denver, Colorado. We're also going to chat a little bit at the end about what happened in that Golden State Warriors game, what we learned from that. I talked about that on the podcast Tuesday going into that game. I want to talk about going out of that game. But let's start with what's going on tonight, because I am truly excited for this game. I've been excited for this game for quite a while. The Nuggets only meet the Cavs twice in the regular season. And if they meet more, it's because they're in the NBA Finals. The Cavs have been awesome. Cavs have been really, really awesome. You could see this developing the last couple of years. They went on that win streak last year, won like 15 plus games at one point in the season. And Donovan Mitchell was such a big addition. We know him well in Denver and all of his exploits with Utah. I've always been a big Evan Mobley fan, as someone who covered him when he was in the Pac-12 at USC. And you have Jared Allen, who I think is one of the more underrated players in the NBA and former All-Star. Really solid, strong tandem of four guys. And then you've got some other guys that are solid players too, whether it's Okoro or Dean Wade or Karis LeVert, who I respect as NBA players, no doubt about it. But it's all come together this year. And I think part of that is the coaching change they had in Cleveland. They went from J.B. Bickerstaff, son of Nuggets legend, and I mean that in the worst way possible, to who is a really good coach in my mind, Kenny Atkinson. And you saw this a little bit with the connectiveness in the culture of those Brooklyn teams a couple years ago, before Kevin Durant got there and Kyrie Irving got there, when it was Spencer Dinwiddie leading a group of kind of ragtag, cast-offs. Kenny's one of the better coaches in the NBA. And, unfortunately for him, he's never gotten the job completely done. But this is a team that's definitely capable of making a deep run in the East. I don't know that they're going to beat New York or Boston in a playoff series. But right now they're proving in the regular season that, yes, they are truly one of the top 5 teams in the NBA. When I did my power ranking podcast a couple weeks back, I had Cleveland up towards the top. They're definitely a team I respect a ton. And for this matchup with the Nuggets, well, they've only lost once at home, and the Nuggets are playing them in Cleveland tonight. And on top of that, you look at the way this matches up, right? I think basketball is all about matchups and all about fit. Athleticism, talent, these things matter quite a bit, no doubt. And a lot of times the most talented player does win, let alone team. But those things matter quite a bit. Looking at tonight's matchup, Jamal Murray going against Donovan Mitchell, we have seen that and how that works, right? Jamal and Donovan go back and forth, and it is one of the most explosive, fun shows in the NBA when those two guys are on and battling and talking at each other. We saw that in the bubble. It is fun. That's maybe even for both teams, right? Darius Garland and Christian Brown. Now, this is going to be interesting because we talked about this on Tuesday on the podcast, right? The Nuggets are really struggling with screen navigation and guarding smaller guards. Well, Darius Garland is 6'1", if that, scoring 20 points a game, and he's shooting 45% from three. And with the big bodies of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, he can use those guys to create advantages with screens or dribble handoffs or whatever you may do. Christian Brown's going to struggle in this matchup. And, of course, Christian on offense, a little bit more limited than Darius Garland, though he is on one of the longest streaks in the NBA currently of guys who've scored in double figures in consecutive ball games. So that's a matchup that I would say goes to the way of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then you look at who's the starting small forward for both teams, right? Isaac Okoro, who's been the starting small forward for the Cavs. Okoro, pretty good defensive player, not offering you much on defense, really just the fifth guy, a connective forward in that lineup. They get more off their bench from Karis LeVert, Dean Wade, and Ty Jerome, just to be honest. Michael Porter Jr., one of the best shooters in the NBA. That matchup, no doubt, goes to the Denver Nuggets. And that matchup's really important because Isaac Okoro, if they're starting him instead of Dean Wade, who Dean Wade's probable for tonight's game with an illness, the Nuggets have 6 inches of size there. And it's the only spot in this matchup where the Nuggets have a true size advantage, not only in height, but weight as well. Both of those things combined. So Porter is going to be very important in tonight's game. And that's the Nuggets' biggest matchup advantage because Aaron Gordon versus Evan Mobley, I think both players are very good players. I think Mobley offers you a little bit more fluidness per se on defense, whereas Gordon's maybe more stout. Gordon's three-point shooting has been terrific to start the season. He's still integrating back into the Nuggets lineup a little bit. You saw some struggles with that early on in the first half against Golden State. Mobley and Allen don't always play on the floor together because they're 2 7-footers, and the Cavs have had this thing where they've kind of struggled with figuring it all out together for years now, whereas Gordon fits perfectly with Jokic. Mobley's no doubt a more talented player. No doubt about it. The fit is better for the Denver Nuggets than it is for the Cavs in this power forward spot. I still give the matchup advantage to Mobley. And, this is a guy who's scoring 18 points a game and grabbing almost 10 boards a game compared to Gordon, who we know in his career, at least as more of a role player for the Nuggets is more about 15 and 6. So love AG, Mobley a little bit more of an advantage. And then Nikola versus Jared Allen. Nikola's obviously the better player. Nikola's going to win any advantage there in terms of matchup. But I do think the combination of Mobley and Allen on Jokic is maybe the toughest matchup for Nikola Jokic in the NBA. It's the size that we saw that bothered him a little bit in the Minnesota series, combined with the athleticism and wingspan and movement that we have seen bother him in the past, let's say against the Phoenix Suns when they had Cam Johnson, Bridges, and they also had DeAndre Ayton kind of stouting him up, right? And then the wingspan around the sides to get into the passing lanes. So whether it's Mobley or Allen on Jokic, and I think it'd probably be Mobley actually, and Allen roaming off Gordon, the size and athleticism of those two represent a very difficult matchup for Nikola Jokic. And of course, he is better than any matchup he plays against, and he finds a way. But I'm just telling you, if I were to design a scheme to beat Nikola Jokic and slow him down and create problems for the Nuggets offense, which is one of the best in the NBA, and I had to start with any current group of players on any team, it would probably be these two on the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, we saw PJ Tucker give Nikola Jokic problems as a smaller power forward. Okay, he's 6'5". Mobley does all of the same things, but he's 7 foot tall. So you look at the matchups across the board. Obviously, Jokic, little sway towards the Nuggets. Porter, big sway to the Nuggets. Garland, big sway towards the Cavs. Mobley, a little sway towards the Cavs. And then the Cavs bench with the guys I mentioned, Karis LeVert, Dean Wade, Ty Jerome, offering the Cavs a lot more than what is basically Russell Westbrook, Julian Strawther, and whoever Michael Malone is throwing out on a given night. Peyton Watson, obviously, but struggling a little bit right now. So the Cavs have the advantages in this matchup. And like I said, not only the best record in the NBA, they're playing extremely well. Well, you look at where they rate. Well, right now they're the third best offense in the NBA, just a half point per 100 possessions behind the Knicks, just completely marginal. It's the Knicks, Celtics, and Cavs in another tier with their offenses. And the Cavs right now on defense are the 8th best team in the NBA in terms of rating. The Thunder are in another stratosphere. Rockets and Magic as well are just playing out of their minds. And then it's the Cavs in this grouping with the Warriors, Clippers, Timberwolves, and Grizzlies, as well as the Mavericks. Shout out Mavs. So looking at this matchup, the Nuggets need to play a pretty great game on offense tonight. and also need to play better defense than they have been recently. We saw them play a lot better defense against the Golden State Warriors, which perhaps is a sign moving forward, especially with Aaron Gordon back, that they're going to be able to put some things together on that end. And truly, this team should actually be a little bit better defensively than what we've seen of the Nuggets in the last several years. Last year, they were really good on defense. I don't know if they're going to be that good again, but in terms of the last 5 years where they've met their defensive level, it's been about league average or slightly below. This team should be a little bit above league average, at least in my mind, with how well Jokic is playing on the defensive end, Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, and Michael Porter Jr.'s growth as a player combined with Aaron Gordon's just all-around contributions. And against the Golden State Warriors, that defense was pivotal, right? Down the stretch, Nuggets go on a 14-2 run. Nikola has 9 of those points in the last few minutes of that game. That game was over. The Nuggets were done. They had lost. They had lost multiple times in that game, but they stuck with it. And that's one of the things that I always love about Michael Malone teams is they really, truly never give up. And they win some weird games like that because they don't give up. And you saw the Nuggets down the stretch operate way better offensively, whereas in a couple games where they've subbed out Porter for Westbrook, they haven't been able to do that. I really think that in crunch time, the Nuggets playing Westbrook has been a negative, whereas when they play Porter, it's still good. And, you know, they lost another game against the Clippers essentially a couple days ago because they couldn't get a rebound when they subbed Watson on for Porter. I think Porter's too good to be taking off the floor defensively at any point. He helped space the floor for Nikola Jokic to do insane things like hit a shot straight over Steph Curry for the lead. And in that game, Jokic 8 of 13 in the second half, I believe, ended up with 38 points, double-double again. It was insane. And, you know, maybe that matchup looks a little bit different if Steph's shot is falling on that day or if Draymond is able to play and is hitting him in sync. Warriors might win that game. But those weren't the circumstances. And the Nuggets found a way to pull it out. And their three-point shooting matched that, basically, of the Warriors. They only made only 1 3 fewer than the Warriors. They're getting to the free throw line consistently still. And they showed a lot of hustle in guarding the Warriors' movement offense between, you know, Steph Curry and their other shooters. Didn't look good at times. They were out of positions. Their rotations were not great, and they were in the wrong spots, and they messed up. But there was a lot more effort in that game than what we have seen. And that, to me, is a very positive sign because, to me, the 2 major parts of defense is 50% effort, 50% skill, 100% concentrated power of will. You know, come on. So if you provide all that effort, it can make up for skill differences that you may not have. You know, there's only so many things you can do if you don't have the skills to guard Nikola Jokic or Steph Curry. But if you really, really effort yourself into guarding Christian Brown, Draymond Green, Russell Westbrook, Buddy Hield, you're going to have positive results, at least in my mind. That's how I look at basketball. So the effort was there. And Michael Malone talked a lot about that after the game and was really excited with that effort comparatively to what we've seen recently, which had been the Nuggets losing 3 straight home games. So now they head out to Cleveland, and it is worth a mention that they did not advance in the NBA Cup. Boo-hoo. I do not think they wanted to, truly. You know, unless you really want the money, and very few guys in the Nuggets care about the money at this point in their careers. They're set. So now they've got a 3-game road trip starting tonight and over the weekend, where they'll also be in Washington and then Atlanta. I'm interested to see who plays in that Atlanta game because it's from Washington to Atlanta less than 24 hours later. The Nuggets struggle with small guards. Trae Young's in that game. Washington's by far the worst team in the NBA, so maybe the Nuggets do the rare thing of sitting guys in the first half of the back-to-back. And then because of the results in the NBA Cup, the Nuggets have Sunday through Friday off when they'll play the Clippers again. They got an extra game against the Clippers again, like last year, because of the NBA Cup results. And then they also had a game scheduled against the Sacramento Kings on the 16th because of the results of the NBA Cup. So tonight's game Really big one. We'll learn a couple things in Atlanta. We'll learn a couple things again against Los Angeles with the small guard thing. But until Christmas, or 2 days before when they play the Suns, this is really the marquee game for the Nuggets, and I'm excited to see it. And you can read about it after the game on denversports.com. I'll have a story with my thoughts and what Michael Malone has to say and what I can find from the players. So make sure you are liked and subscribed to our YouTube channel, where we'll be talking about this on Coffee Break tomorrow. And make sure you're clicking on denversports.com. Mile High Hoops Podcast. This is Jake Shapiro. Thanks for tuning in.